Hello and welcome back to Chasing Excellence, a show about chasing what truly matters. My name is Patrick Cummings, here with just a quick introduction to the episode. This time around, we've got something a little different, a little special. I think you're going to like it. As many of you know, because you've reached out and told me, you also listen to a podcast called The Consistency Project, which is one that I produce and co-host with a friend of the show, E.C. Synkowski. Well, if you don't know, first of all, go check out the Consistency Project podcast wherever you're listening to this or watching this. I think you will like it. If you like Chasing Excellence, you will like the Consistency Project. So what we've got today is actually an episode from the Consistency Project, all about expectations and reality, and why sometimes our expectations around our diet, our nutrition, is in fact what fails us. I thought this was a great episode that EC and I just did over there, and I really wanted more people to hear it. Couple of reasons why this is on my mind. One, I happen to be in the midst of really dialing in my lazy macros. Lazy macros, for those folks who don't know, is EC's sort of brilliant approach at measuring what matters or measuring the most important things before you get into measuring everything. So it's the 800 gram challenge, 800 grams of fruits and vegetables every single day. And then it's tracking on your protein targets. The second reason, and it's related to that, is that she's about to launch her next masterclass. It's the last one of the year. It starts on September 11th, I believe. So check out her masterclass. OptimizeMeNutrition.com is where you can learn more. Follow her on Instagram, Optimize Me Nutrition. I can't recommend her enough. I can't say enough good things about her. So again, check out all her stuff. But this episode that we've got, conversation that she and I had recently around expectations versus reality. So without any further ado, here is EC and I chatting about that. So let's go. Let's do a little bit of background. What do we need to know to kind of get into this conversation about expectations and reality?
Yeah, probably a pretty quick intro here. But yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason, there's so many reasons why diets fail, right? But some of it is simply because these unrealistic expectations. And it reminds me of the quote, happiness equals reality minus expectations. Mm-hmm. And I guess the diet equivalent would be something like progress equals reality minus expectations.
I like that. Yep.
And so, yeah, it's really helping people understand those reality versus expectations, as you mentioned, in the diet world. And we talk about this and we work on this a lot in my masterclass, because I think even Adam Bornstein said it quite well in his book when we talked to him. But mindset and shifting your mindset really is the first change you have to make with a new diet. It's not, what does my cupboard have? And did I go grocery shopping? Right? Like the first step is like, is my mindset right? Because if you keep thinking that this process is going to look a different way, or your future diet is going to look a certain way that's incorrect, yes, you will keep failing. Right? And I think that actually describes a majority of the diet plans out there. So we're going to get into that.
Really interesting. Okay, so in advance of this, you sent me what you believe are the top 5 expectations that folks have that do derail their progress. We're going to dive into each one of them, but first, here are all 5 just so folks can know what's coming. Number 1, what your caloric target should be. Number 2, what a healthy diet looks like. Number 3, what sustainable change requires. Number 4, how fast to see results. And expectation number 5, what the path to progress looks like. So as we do, first things first, what your caloric target should be. How does that affect progress?
Yeah. This is definitely a psychological battle for a lot of people. And I really do think it's intertwined with diet culture and even some of the detox culture, wellness culture we've talked about. And it's this sort of internalized obsession with almost purity and cleansing. And I think people, and I'm going to say women, although, maybe it affects some men as well. I think there's this kind of perpetual belief that lower calorie is always better, almost to the point where it's like the more low calorie you can go, the better it is. And sort of idolized in the media, at least, of people eating 1,200 calories a day. And it's not real in any sort of real world nutrition sense. I mean, I guess you can survive, certainly you can survive, but it's not necessary and it's not healthy. And again, if we're talking about women, they can be affecting their cycle, which then can affect fertility. We can also not be getting enough nutrients for bone density. Of course, men can be affected by not getting enough nutrients as well. But, one of the things I see all the time, how it's celebrated in the media, are these what I eat in a day posts. And I've watched enough of these things that are, I don't know how many thousands of likes. If you were to actually add up what these people are eating, the avocado toast and like the one latte and then the roasted veggie dinner, they're not even close to 1,200 calories. They're not even close. And it's all in this vein of like, they're natural and they're very this organic wellness vibe, and it's idolizing this person in this routine, which, to be honest, they're either A, not following, they do it for a day and they can't stick to it, or if they are following it, it's very likely they don't have enough nutrition, as I just mentioned earlier. But ultimately, this sort of obsession with this idea and the fact that thinness and these diet routines are celebrated, people then have the expectation in their mind that they should eat 1,200 calories. It's so like almost ingrained that people come in to the masterclass and they think, okay, 1,200 calories is a normal diet for women. And I think for men, sometimes I've seen men targeting that number as well, but it might be closer to 1,600 for men. And it's all BS. And so what happens is, 90%, 95% of people, they go on these diets, they can't sustain 1,200 calories, understandably so, for more than 3 to 5 days, but yet they have this expectation that they should be. And so when they can't adhere to it, and because it's so celebrated in the media, they think the failure is them. They're like this person that doesn't have willpower, they just can't stick to it. Really, it's just this unrealistic diet. And I have this all the time in the masterclass, and this is from men and women. Anytime that they're near 2,000 plus calories, it always comes with an explanation. Like they'll, for example, record that they ate 2,300 calories. And then it's, okay, well, that was a really odd week. I was on vacation and, okay, I had family in town and it was a holiday. And they feel like they really have to defend what is actually a normal caloric intake. And I'm not judging them for that rationalization or that explanation at all, because I think what it really just reflects is how insidious this belief is, that people feel like they have to be targeting this really low number of calories, and then they're shocked to learn that a lot of times their intake is quite normal. It's not high.
Yeah, it's strange that there's an element of guilt there. Right?
Yes.
There's so much guilt over doing
100%.
To your point was like, no, that's actually where you should be. And it's such a strange thing when you're in a position, and you started this with the mindset, which is what this is when you feel guilty about the thing you should be doing, you're never going to be successful.
Totally.
It's just never going to work.
See, all the time people, I'm sorry, but people all the time, they'll be like, oh, I was closer to 2,000 calories over the weekend. I'm like, yeah, I know, because you're a human. Right. So before we move on to the second one, the 12, we keep saying the number 1,200 and maybe 1,600 for men, but like, first of all, like, why that number? Maybe there's no answer there. But more importantly, is there a number that you would, if you had a magic wand and you can just like do that, and like, what's the number you would stick in people's heads as they, for example, they come into the masterclass? Like, what is it that you want them to at least have in their head as like, that's the normal caloric target that will still get me to my goals? Yeah, where'd that number come from? I mean, it isn't, again, you can live at that number, and it is often used. For example, I've seen some of the extreme weight loss shows. Medical doctors will often prescribe a diet of that number to get weight down before a surgery. They have to take off weight quite quickly so that somebody is at a safer weight to survive, let's say, gastric bypass. And in certain cases like that, where we're talking about extreme medical need, there can be a use for it. The problem is if we then adopt it for just like everybody who might not be in that situation, right? But yeah, in terms of like resetting expectations around numbers, I really don't like to give specifics. I've found as soon as I say any number, it becomes the target, and that's where I think 1,200, it's been thrown out there as a target in some cases. So people just latch onto it. It's like, okay, I'll lose weight at 1,200, right? But in reality, there's this wide range of what calories can be because of our age, our body size, muscle mass, activity, all the stuff that we go through genetics. So I pretty much don't say much beyond women on average need 2,000 calories a day and men on average need 2,500 calories a day. That's as much as I'm willing to say. I mean, at least we have a ballpark of a number. We know that 5,000 is too high for anybody besides, Tia at the CrossFit Games, right? Yep. But the goal should be, regardless of what the generalized targets are, the goal should be to maximize the number of calories you need to both lose and maintain that weight. And it shouldn't be this celebrated less is better. It should be celebrated most is better for the goals that I need, because that's where you get freedom and enjoyment in your diet. And I've had plenty of women lose weight at 2,000 calories or more per day. And of course, the same is with men. And so it should really be almost this flip of like, it's great if I can eat more and get the goals that I want, not kind of keep going lower. I do want to be transparent. Some women, and of course men, relative to their target are going to need less than 2,000 calories to lose weight. And that's really just a function of, again, stature, body size, age, muscle mass, activity. But we still try to maximize the number of calories you get at your goal weight. And one of my favorite success stories is I had a woman, to get to her goal weight, she had to diet at 1,500 calories. That's how we ended up. I think she ended up dropping 15 to 20 pounds. But once we were there, we were able to increase her calories to 1,900, and she maintained her goal weight. And this is through that process of reverse dieting, which is in an old podcast. So there are going to be cases where people don't get to eat 2,300 calories and lose weight, of course, but the goal should always be to maximize them. And I don't really want to give specifics beyond that.
On to our second expectation, which is what a healthy diet actually looks like. This is interesting. What does that mean? Why does that get in the way? Like, I thought we all knew what a healthy diet looks like.
Totally. And it is really related to the 1,200 calorie thing in the wellness culture, and this idea that, the healthy diet is just a day of green juices and detoxing.
Right. Which is back to that eat as little as possible, and if you succeed, then you've got a healthy diet.
Yeah, it's like I'm just gonna have my tea and my detox green juice, and I was healthy today. And what's hard about this is I think our listeners know by now I'm all about eating more whole foods than not. I'm all about a healthy amount of fruits and veggies. Hello, 800-gram challenge. So don't think that I'm trying to push processed foods on people. The point is, while a healthy diet is full of whole unprocessed foods, it doesn't need to be 100% whole unprocessed foods. And so people have this expectation that when they go on a diet, they are now only eating the salmon and broccoli diet from here on out. It's like, okay, well, now I'm going to be healthy, so now I eat salmon and broccoli. And salmon and broccoli is great, and a lot of us enjoy salmon and broccoli, which is great. Mm-hmm. But because of that expectation that that's what healthy looks like, they've also sort of mentally decided they can't have cake. When in reality, eating healthy means, okay, I'm going to hit my calories for the day. I'm going to hit my macros for the day. I'm going to hit my micros, make sure I get my iron, my fiber, and all that stuff. And yes, hitting those targets should largely come from whole unprocessed foods like salmon and broccoli, but there is some volume within there that you can have cake. And I think people have a hard time accepting that at the end of the day, and this is something I see clients struggle with, if you have calories to spare, let's say you have 300 calories to spare and the rest of the day has been whole foods, there's still this underlying belief that I should fill those extra 300 calories with almonds or sweet potatoes, fill whatever healthy whole food you have in your mind. And there's guilt there if they were to say, no, I'm going to spend those 300 calories on cake. And it's like, no, eat the cake, eat the chocolate, eat the pork rinds, whatever food it is. And that is then part of a healthy diet. And so part of the reason why I think this expectation kills progress is because people don't understand what that end goal is that they're shooting for. They end up moving between these extremes of, okay, I'll eat salmon and broccoli, but I can only do it for a week, and then they get so frustrated and all they want is cake, so then they go on the cake diet. Yep. And so they, quote, fall off the wagon, and they have to stay on the cake diet until they muster up the strength to go back to the salmon and broccoli diet. And I feel like we're always just swinging between these extremes. And instead, it's like, okay, there's some amount of processed food that you can have every day, and it's not only not going to not harm you, I would argue it's healthy for you. And then by way of this processed food as part of your diet, you actually will be able to sustain it, and therefore you're going to get progress and you're going to see the results. And instead, this swing between restriction to no restriction is what's really killing any sort of moving forward. And it's unfortunate. I think, again, the media plays a role here. We see all these viral posts of like, okay, I'm going to go eat the 10,000 calorie lasagna, or like, I'm only going to eat beef liver. Like really extreme diet interpretations of what somebody is saying is healthy or not. When this approach of like, okay, I'm going to have mostly whole unprocessed foods, but still save some room every day for the foods that I love is very doable and very healthy. And we just don't see it represented.
I think we should name this episode "Why Cake is Healthy for You." Can we do that? Are we allowed to? Yeah. Why cake is healthy for you. Okay, number 3 on our list is what sustainable change actually looks like.
I think people underestimate the length of time, not just for progress, as I think we're going to get into in another one, but the length of time to really make the changes stick. Like anybody can make a diet change for a week or two.
Yep.
But that's
I've done that a couple times.
Yeah. I mean, I have too, right? But that's not really representative of how this diet could actually work in your real life. especially if that week or two did not have many social events, did not have some work day from hell, did not have anything, kids, sickness, whatever it is to throw you off your plan. You actually want those crazy days as a test for this quote diet that you've been on. And I think what happens is, I think people come into a new diet, they're ready to go, they have this motivation, and they want that quote answer right away. I know we've talked about this before, but it's like, just tell me what to eat. Tell me how many calories to eat. And I always like to counter that excitement or that motivation for the answer and say, well, how has that gone so far? You already said that you've tried the once a week, one week diet and it hasn't sticked. So have I, right? Like, how has that gone for us so far? You've tried overhauling the diet, cleaning out the cupboards, getting the new meal plans, weighing and measuring everything after not weighing and measuring anything ever. And most of the time they haven't stuck. So now we have to change that expectation. And now, instead of thinking we're just going to change overnight and what's the final product, we're going to say, how do I slow roll these changes? How do I incorporate one thing at a time? And the CrossFit coaches out there will resonate with the idea of progression, right? How can we demonstrate competency at a simpler task or simpler movement, slowly add to that until we get to the more complex variation? And I think it's true in probably any endeavor. I mean, you start a new skill with something that you can do and slowly add on, yet somehow in diet and nutrition, it becomes, okay, let's forget that idea. Let's just give you 25 meal plans. However you've been eating for the last 25 years, forget that. Here's 25 new meal plans. Just take those and do those and you'll be fine, right? And then we wonder why people can't stick to it. And instead, we need to start where you are now, in this moment, with your life, with your craziness of kids or schedule or work or travel and all that stuff, job from hell. We need to start as it is now, make a small change there, build that competency and move on. And one of the studies that I cite all the time, I just love it. The median length of time it took for people to adopt a diet and lifestyle change was 66 days. Like 2 months to really adopt a diet and lifestyle change. And yet we want to be told, okay, just eat this tomorrow as though that's going to work. Yep. So yeah, I mean, and that's really a lot of the reason why my masterclass works in a progression. It's teaching you, it's guiding you, starting where you are and making small changes from that starting point. We don't start at a perfect script and just think we're going to live with it. Yet again, that's overwhelmingly how diets are presented to people.
I think the most important thing there, or one of the things that really resonates with me, is the idea, because so many people try to wait for perfect to start, specifically a new diet for whatever reason, but also like getting into the gym or really putting any habit into place. They think, okay, well, it's summertime, so when the kids go back to school, I'll fill in the blank, right? Or work is really busy now, so when it settles down, which it never does, fill in the blank. When my finances are a little bit better, then I'll do X, Y, and Z. And I just love your point of, no, if it doesn't actually work now, when finances are hard and the kids are around and work is busy, if it doesn't work now, it's not going to, because there will never be a period long enough where one of those things or all of those things aren't the case, that if you let that derail you in your mind, back to the mindset thing, which is, I guess now isn't the right time. It got busy at work again, so I guess I'll have to shelve this new diet or this new exercise program, whatever. And so I love the idea of just accepting that. In fact, if you are in an imperfect time, is the perfect time, because it'll never be perfect. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I do like to caution people, like, if you just had a baby, today might not be the day to start macros.
Agreed.
What I mean?
That might not be the chaos you want.
So there are, I think, some times in life when it clearly is a chaos beyond I can take on really overhauling my diet.
Yes.
But yeah, I do think for the most part, there are just these parts of our life where we're just, quote, busy. And it's like, that's just how it is. And so you have to start now. And I think Street Parking's done a really great job with the tagline, more than nothing. And it's the idea of just getting started on that day's habit and doing what you can that day, even though it might not be in your mind, I had this 5-round perfect workout plan. Instead, I'm going to get this 10-minute piece done because that's what I can do right now. And I think that's a really great approach for any diet and lifestyle change. Like, what can I do today that's more than not doing it?
Yeah. There's a great book called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. And it's I think the subtitle is Time Management for Mortals. And one of the key arguments in the book is we spend so much time waiting for things not to be busy. We're waiting for our life to sort of open up and our ability to breathe, right?
Yep.
And one of the points he makes is it's never, that will never happen. We will always fill the time. We will always fill the hours. We will always feel like we have more to do than we have time to do it. And it's only when we accept that do we actually begin to make progress, because we make progress within the constraints instead of waiting for the constraints to change.
Totally. 100%.
Yeah. Dig it. EC and I will be back momentarily. Let's take a few minutes to say thanks to a few sponsors. We're brought to you this week by Momentous. If you're looking to optimize your health and performance, then you need to check out Momentous. Use the code excellence at livemomentous.com for 20% off of all of your soon-to-be favorite products. We're all striving to get everything we need from our diet, but still some of us are missing out on some essential nutrients. That's why you may want to consider taking Momentous creatine, omega-3s, and protein supplements every day. These supplements support everything from cognitive function to reducing inflammation in muscles and joints. Navigating the supplement world can be tricky, but with Momentous, we know we're getting the best. They collaborate with top experts and are committed to using only the highest quality ingredients. Plus, their rigorous third-party testing ensures what's on the label is exactly what's in the product, meeting the standards of even the most demanding organizations like the NFL and the NBA. You don't know how big a deal that is until you realize that supplements are not strictly regulated, and studies have found that they may not always contain what they claim. Not so with Momentous, though. That's why world-class athletes and experts trust them. So if you want to take your health to the next level with supplements made and trusted by the best, head to livemomentous.com. Use the code excellence for 20% off. That's livemomentous.com with the code excellence. We're also brought to you this time around by OneSkin. Have you noticed your skin feeling a bit tired after all that summer fun? If you're looking to refresh and rejuvenate, OneSkin is here to help. Known as the world's first skin longevity company, OneSkin tackles aging at the root cause, ensuring your skin behaves, feels, and looks younger. Unlock healthier skin today with OneSkin. Get 15% off your purchase at oneskin.co when you use the code excellence. Their products feature the groundbreaking OS01 peptide, scientifically proven to reduce senescent cells, which are a major contributor to skin aging. Imagine reversing the biological age of your skin by years. In fact, a 12-week clinical study showed that OneSkin's OS01 face improved skin health markers and reduced wrinkles in 87% of users. This fall, as nature transforms, let your skin undergo its own transformation with OneSkin's powerful products. Not only will you see the difference, but you'll feel it as well. Healthier skin is just a step away. If you're ready to start your journey towards healthier skin, visit oneskin.co. Use the code excellence for 15% off. It's oneskin.co with the code excellence. Make sure you let them know you heard about them from us. Age healthy with OneSkin, because we've only got one body and one skin. Okay, back to our list. Fourth progress killer is the expectation of on how fast you will see results, which feels like a sister or a cousin to the last one.
Yeah, I mean, these are all interrelated. And I know we've talked about this before. The media isn't helping here. Another one of the dogmas in the media is, you should be losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, which really would say like, okay, in a month, I'll just drop 10 pounds, something like that. And the reason I like to push back on that rate of weight loss is because 1 to 2 pounds a week requires 500 to 1,000 calorie a day deficits. So that would add up to then the 3,500 calories or the 7,000 calories, which then is the 1 to 2 pound equivalent that quote everyone expects. The problem is even at the low end, that 500 calories is a legitimate meal. So creating that or even double that 1,000 calorie a day deficit, I mean, you're talking about cutting out 1 to 2 regular meals from your day, which is just not possible for a lot of people. It might be possible on the Saturday that you ate out at the Cheesecake Factory and had the cheesecake plus the appetizer. But on any sort of given day, that's a big ask. Now, again, I like to say that, yes, it is possible for some people to lose that rate of weight loss, and typically they're coming in with larger caloric budgets. So if you were eating more than 3,000 calories and now you cut out 1,000 calories, you're closer to 2,000, which, while it will still be hard for that person, at least we're looking at a food volume that sort of represents, okay, I can go through the day and eat meals in a normal structure culturally and have something to eat, where a lot of people cutting out 1,000 calories is just, no, it's not going to happen, right? And so what I recommend for people on the rate of progress front is to take the number of pounds that they lose, say it's 20 pounds, and double it. And that's the number of weeks that they should have in their mind it will take. And so that's closer to a half pound a week. So if somebody wants to lose 20 pounds, you're going to budget 40 weeks. Now, could it come off faster? Sure, but let's be pleasantly surprised instead of having unrealistic expectations. And really what happens is we find that, again, people don't tend to sustain their weight loss. People tend to gain the weight back that they lose. And so people are in this rush to lose all the weight when what we find is most people who lose weight put it back on. And so we really want to not be rushing that. We want to slow it down. I think the phrase is like slow is fast, and smooth is fast. And I think it's exactly. Really true with
whatever
nutrition.
That was.
Right, I know. I got it, right? I got it.
Yeah, I think you got it. Yep.
It's totally true with nutrition. We aren't looking for fast results. We're looking for forever results, right? So why are we rushing the plan that we're building for forever? And I think when you start to make that mindset shift, it's so powerful because instead of in week 2 thinking the scale should be 4 pounds down, in week 2 you're thinking, okay, I'm sticking to the plan and it's working. And that's totally different to be able to keep going on the plan to see real progress.
In your experience with working with so many folks, have you seen any correlation to the length of time it takes a person to get to whatever their goal weight, right? And the example you just gave was 40 weeks for 20 pounds. Is there any correlation to length of time it takes to get to that weight and likelihood that it stays off? In other words, is it more likely that if you do give yourself the patience, or you have the patience and you give yourself the time to spend in that, again, that example, that 40 weeks, are you more likely to then keep it off because presumably what took the 40 weeks was sustainable, was smarter, was easier to handle?
Yeah, I mean, I don't unfortunately have contact with all of the people who took the masterclass and what their progress is post masterclass and all of that stuff. But I do think what happens, and we kind of mentioned it in one of the early expectations, is that when you have this sort of slower process, is you're cementing the habits, and you're cementing the habits across days that are chaotic, such that the results tend to be able to last longer. Is it going to be 100% perfect? Of course not. We're talking about nutrition in a really hard food environment. Yep. And I do have people though reach out to me and talk to me about their results sustained from the masterclass. And I will give an example of an individual who did want to lose 20 pounds. It did take her close to a year. And then it was probably, I would say, half a year ago, I reached back out to her, and I use her as an example quite often, partially because she just had a really great mental shift in the class. And anyway, I reached out to her to say like, hey, how's it going since I use you as my example? And she had to get away from weighing and measuring. Life got crazy. She's had some other just things in her life that have taken front and center, and she's been able to maintain the weight loss. I think she said she gained a pound for not weighing and measuring. I mean, that's phenomenal. It's like absolutely amazing, like rock star status. And so I think that's what people underestimate about going slow is you have the time to cement the habits over days that will be chaotic. And that's something else. I mean, I know I'm kind of ranting here, but about the masterclass is I make it long enough. I want you to run into difficult days. This is why we don't do this in a weekend and send you out with a plan. It's long enough that I say you hit the wall. It's like crashing your car or something like that, but then being able to be like, okay, that's what happens on those days, and that's how I course correct.
It reminds me, I chatted with somebody who went through the masterclass, and I think the number in my head is 4. She went on like 4 vacations over the course. Yeah,
right.
Which, first of all, I don't know how you do that over the course of
amazing.
But she was like, I was able to do it.
Yes.
I wasn't neurotic. My husband didn't hate me at the end of these things. So anyways, it speaks a little bit more to that. Okay. Last on our list of 5, what the path to progress actually looks like. How do expectations around that kill people's progress?
Yeah. And this is the idea that kind of sparked the whole podcast. So shout out to Jonathan of Digital Barbell, kind of threw this one out here. And
What's up, Jonathan and Blakely?
Yeah, I ultimately kind of morphed it into these different expectations I see. He might not recognize it, but yeah, this ultimately started with him. But yeah, I mean, the problem here is people will eat healthy for, let's say, 2 to 3 days, and then they won't see any, quote, progress. Or perhaps in their minds, they'll think it's worse because they'll see the scale go up after these 2, 3, 5 days on the new diet. And the diet, oh my gosh, it's not just the scale doesn't go down, it actually goes up. And this frustrates people. And they take this as confirmation of like, hey, see, the diet isn't working. I'm putting in all this work. It's not working. And it's like, no, it's working. It just doesn't work how you're expecting it to work, right? And it's a little bit, of course, tied to the last point about progress, that people expect the weight just to fall right off, and it doesn't really happen that way when we do it sustainably. But even when you're doing it at the sustainable pace, you have to have the expectation that the trend on the scale will not always go down, because the scale doesn't just reflect fat. So when people are trying to lose weight, in every case that I've worked with, the weight that they want to lose is fat. But when you step on the scale, that's not just fat weight. That's muscle, water, organs, bones. It's a compilation of different weights.
I've gotten rid of all my organs. So
right. Now I was going to say, most people aren't looking at like, okay, I want, what's happening to my bone and organ weight. And that weight doesn't really change much. It does technically across lifetime, but of course, on any sort of smaller realistic scale, it's not really changing much. So the way that we want to see that's actually changing is fat, but we can't separate that out, specifically what's happening with water weight, especially when we look on any sort of too close days on the scale, because over 60%, depends on your age, but 60% of your body weight is water. So if you were to take a 150-pound person, they've got 90 pounds of water on them. We're like these large water jugs walking around, right? And so this is why on any given day, easily, although I've had clients have bigger swings, 2 to 4 pounds up or down on any given direction is totally normal, and it does not reflect fat mass changes. So you can be doing all the things right, but based on things like your hydration status, how much salt was in your diet the day prior, or whatever, even 2 days prior, or even how much the mass of food is still in your GI tract. If you eat a 1 pound burger and you step on the scale, you're going to be a pound heavier, but doesn't mean you're a pound fat heavier. All of these things can add up such that the scale doesn't always show you going down. And of course, I'm not trying to come up with tons of different reasons here, but a lot of us have these home bathroom scales that have gone from house to house or kicked around on the floor for years, and we all treat it like it's so accurate, like it's some NASA space equipment. And it's like, people will be like, I'm up 0.2 pounds today. And I'm like, what? It's not that level of accuracy, right? 0.2 pounds means nothing on a home bathroom scale. It's not that accurate, right? But really the point here is any sort of change, especially if we're looking between short range of days, has so many influencing factors that you don't want to take this as a reflection of what's happening to your fat mass. And so your diet today or even your diet tomorrow does not show up on the scale tomorrow or a few days down the line. In fact, what you really want to think about is my diet today and consistently for the next several days might start to show up in a trend in a couple weeks if I'm consistent. But notice I said trend, because even when the trend is going down, you're still going to have some individual days where it might jump up a little or might plateau a little bit, and it has nothing to do with this fat mass changing. It could be down to the water weight. So we have to remove the expectation that progress is always down. We have to remove the expectation that the scale is an immediate feedback tool. It's an okay tool. It's an okay tool for us to assess progress, especially once we look across many data points of weeks, but not like I changed my diet today or tomorrow, and then on Thursday or whatever, 5 days from now, it's going to show up in the scale. So yeah, we got to kill that. We got to kill that expectation too.
All right. Those are the 5 expectations that kill progress. What your caloric target should be, what a healthy diet looks like, what sustainable change requires, how fast you might see results, and what the path to progress actually looks like. Thank you, EC. I will now look at everybody as human water jugs. That was my major takeaway from this episode. Everywhere I go, just human water jugs everywhere. Thank you so much for tuning into the show this time around. Thank you to EC for letting us share it over here on the Chasing Excellence feed. One more time, check out the Consistency Project podcast if you are interested in more from EC. Check out her masterclass, optimizemenutrition.com. Learn more. It starts up on September 11th. Don't miss it. This is the last time she's running it this year. And again, I can't recommend her and her approach more when it comes to diet and nutrition. It is the thing that has made the most sense to me over my many years of paying attention to these things. So optimizemenutrition.com. Ben and I will be back very soon for a brand new episode of Chasing Excellence. Until then, keep chasing.